You're listening to Jonesy and Brown.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Jonesy and Brown show. It's me, your boy Brown, alongside my partner in crime. I'm pretty sure that's my partner in crime. It's been like 5 months since we've done a show. Hasn't been that long, but still, it feels like it's been a really, really long time.
Longer break than we usually take.
Yes, and we got to be real with the people. We have to be real with our audience, with people who enjoy the Jonesy and Brown show,
I'll
who
take
support it.
I'll take this one.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to talk about the Sixers. The Sixers stink.
Oh my God. Brother, you and I disagree on a lot of things. You and I have battled on a lot of subjects. A lot of times, I fully, wholeheartedly agree with you on this take. I am sorry. I literally had no desire to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't have it in me. I made bold predictions about the Sixers earlier in the season. They came burning and crashing into the ground. I was absolutely wrong. Sixers are dookie. They are dookie with corn in it. It's a stench that's going to smell for a long time. There's a pretty good chance it's going to smell bad next year. So there really wasn't a lot to talk about, especially when you're coming off an Eagles Super Bowl win, when you're coming off the highest of highs, and then you look at the landscape of the rest of Philadelphia sports, and they are at the lowest of lows. The Sixers stink. The Flyers stink. The Phillies smell bad. Yeah, yes, they're playing Washington this week. You know, there's a little bit.
Let's not go that far.
No,
I'm
not saying
the
they
Phillies
stink.
are a little musty.
Oh, okay, fine.
They're a little musty.
They're a little ripe.
Like they might need to get in the shower, freshen up.
Like you ever like you're riding a bus or you're in an elevator and somebody in that elevator ain't smelling right. You're pretty positive it's not you. You know,
but see, I don't want to go to. But see, that sounds like they stink. Like
they ain't smelling, ain't smelling too
I didn't
good,
say they smell good, but you ever been around somebody who's like, you don't actually stink. Like I could tell you put on deodorant and shower today.
Attempts at hygiene were made.
But I can also tell either you just left the gym or you had a hard day to work and you're a little musty. Like you got some sweat on you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like that's how I feel about the Phillies right now.
Fair enough. The Phillies,
but they need to get in that shower soon or it could be all downhill.
So some things might have to change. They might have to change their deodorant, as in their manager. They might have to make some trades or something because they are although, like I said, this week the Nats are in town, so that's an attempt for some get right.
But before we go down this Phillies rabbit hole, let's finish where we started.
Okay, where we started was the Sixers.
I know, and I want to finish that because we've avoided it.
Mm-hmm.
We're here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give it 5 minutes.
Okay. So, now, granted, we're 4 minutes and 10 seconds into this show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So here we are. You remember we had a family meeting early in the year.
We did.
I said a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
But one more, when we came to the Paul George signing, I said one thing in particular. Do you remember what it was? It was a phrase I used. Remember Chris Webber.
Yes. You compared it to Chris Webber.
An older, past his prime player with an injury history that whether or not he wants to try hard, he just doesn't have it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what Paul George turned out to be.
Yes.
And when it comes to Embiid, I've been saying trade him since Ben Simmons retired.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, Ben Simmons did retire 4 or 5 years ago against the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs.
At this point now, Ben Simmons is up for the Hall of Fame. That's how long he's been. That's how long he's been retired.
He's been retired that long.
Ben Simmons should be on the next ballot for Hall of Famers.
And at that point, my contention was because of the Sixers' mismanagement of assets, the Jimmy Butler deal, paying Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons deciding he wants out. I thought it was best to blow the team up then and start over because I just looking at where they were cap-wise, asset-wise, I just saw it as a very steep uphill climb trying to build a winning team around Joel Embiid, who also has his own injury history. Here we are a couple years later. We don't know if Joel's ever going to be able to be all-star level Joe again. Not MVP level Joe. We don't know if he'll ever be all-star level Joe again. You're 7 feet, 300 pounds with a bad knee that doesn't seem to be getting any better. So, and Maxey, as much as we all love him, we love his energy, we love his effort, we love the way he plays. He's a good piece. He's a piece I think you can win with. He's not a piece you can build around.
Yes. You and I have had this conversation plenty of times. And we established there's a difference between players you build around and players you build with.
Right. So for me, with the Sixers being where they were the second half of the season, I didn't want to talk about it because I just been on every week saying I told you so. Who wants that? And you said early in the year when I made these points, you didn't have the energy to be mad at them all year.
And
how do you feel now?
No, at this point now, I think, honestly, as far as you and I go, where you and I have a platform to engage in sports dialogue, I'm worse than mad. Because when you're mad, you have something to say. When you and I are angry about something that goes on in sports, I will text you. You will text me. Hey man, let's fire these microphones up. Let's get on.
That's some stuff you need to get off your
chest. Let's talk about this.
But at that point, you're still engaged.
Yeah. No, I jumped from frustrated, over mad, to indifferent. Whereas, they did not make me angry. They made me not care. That's what the 76ers did to me this year. They made me not care. I don't care about the Sixers. Now, look, the two of us, we try to be engaging. We try to be people who engage in conversation and dialogue. We sure as hell will engage in some dialogue with Cowboys fans. I love to get into it with some Celtics fans, Mets fans, whatever.
I just fun.
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me.
No, it does not. But I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good on Sixers talk.
Yeah.
Because the problems with the Sixers put themselves in a position where that is kind of, it's worse than other bad teams we've dealt with in the past.
Because what would you say the Sixers' two worst contracts are at this current moment?
Unfortunately, right now, the two worst contracts are Embiid and George.
And those are going to last you another 3 years.
Exactly. That's
I agree with you completely. I assumed you would give me that answer. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Like we're on the same page.
Yeah. It's like the last time the Eagles were bad, there was a conversation to be had over how you can fix them. Do you get rid of Doug Peterson? Do you get rid of Howie? Do you get rid of Carson Wentz? How do you fix the Eagles? And lo and behold, they worked at it. And by the looks of the fact that, our team is the defending champions, looks like they fixed it. Same question now. The same type of conversation can be had around the Philadelphia Phillies. How do you fix the Phillies? Do you need to make a trade? Do you need to make a change at in the front office? Do you need to make a change at the manager spot? There's a conversation to be had about how
Phillies
you
absolutely need bullpen help. That's
okay.
the biggest. Like, they fix the bullpen, then we can think about the rest of it. And they did make a trade recently for a right-handed reliever.
But the fact
the
that
Sixers,
the fact of the matter is there is a conversation to be had.
The Sixers,
we can talk about it.
Here's the thing about the Sixers. Sam Hinkie, Brett Brown, they never really got to finish what they started.
No.
Various reasons. Some their fault, some not their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Colangelo comes in, who has a history of mediocre team building and builds mediocre teams and has burner accounts. And yeah. Then there was the big swing at the Jimmy Butler year, which I think was actually their best effort. But he didn't want to play with Ben Simmons. We keep Ben Simmons. And where do we go from there? We bring in Morey, another guy who has a history of building mediocre teams, who's over-dependent on analytics, who will tell you he uses AI to make decisions. Like, this is the guy we have running our team. And how many times have you heard me say basketball is not an analytics sport? The easiest way to put up numbers in basketball is to play bad basketball.
Say that again for the people who might have missed it. Because you're preaching right now. Say that again. Make that point again.
The easiest way to put up bad numbers playing basketball is by playing bad basketball.
What do you mean by that?
Russell Westbrook. A guy who dominates the ball, always has that ball in his hands. He's going to shoot a lot. High volume shooter. So you'll see 25 to 30 points a game. But that's a high volume 20 to 30 rather than an efficient 25 to 30. You'll see 8 to 10 assists, but they aren't flow of the game 8 to 10 assists. They're late shot clock. I've dribbled it out and then kicked to my guy in the corner because I was stuck and he had to throw something up. 10 assists. Over the course of 48 minutes, if I got the ball in my hands all the times, my guys might make 10 of those and they might miss 20, but I got my 10 assists. Their percentages are low and everybody's calling them bums because they're not shooting well, but I gave them low percentage shots at the end of the shot clock and they had to throw it up. I'll get some assists and I'll look great on the stat sheet. The team's not functioning well. Like, you remember MCW?
Yep.
Remember, he was rookie of the year with the Sixers.
Yes. Another high draft pick, not playing anymore.
Right. But rookie of the year with the Sixers.
Yes.
Sixers were actually able to flip him into valuable assets, so I don't knock them for that one. But what was the rest of his career like after he left? He had the worst field goal percentage in the league outside of 5 feet when he was in Philly. And I kept telling people, like, this dude's not that good. He's just has the ball in his hands all the time on a bad team. And when he went anywhere else, you could see that. But when you're playing bad basketball or on a bad team, somebody's going to get numbers. So you can't just look at analytics and say, this guy gives me this in basketball, or look at the scoring average or assist average and say, oh, I'll bring him in and he'll do the same thing. That's not how it works. You actually have to look at players stylistically and see how they'll fit. Like, perfect example, the Lakers got Luka Doncic to go with LeBron James. And a lot of people got excited, like, oh, they've got 2 of the top 10, 2 of the top 15 players in the league. My first reaction is, oh, this isn't going to work, and they'll lose in the first round, which just happened. So now your top 3 players are LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. Which one of them would you call a lockdown defender?
None of them.
So
probably the closest one you would. Maybe
Austin
Reeves
Reeves.
Reeves or LeBron.
LeBron
But
hasn't
that's
played D. LeBron has
no.
not played D in the last 10 years.
No. I'm not calling LeBron defender. I'm just saying if you're asking me of those three, that's probably as close as you going. LeBron would be as close as you would get to one. Not saying.
But at 40 years old, you can't count on LeBron's legs to hold up and play D. If you're asking him also to contribute at a high level on the offensive end.
No,
that's just ridiculous.
No, agreed.
So you're looking at Austin Reeves and Luka, who got traded because of his poor conditioning and lack of defense
and love of beer.
So, and then you also lack size, and that's just the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball with the Lakers now, I was talking about fits and style of play.
Yeah.
Luka Doncic and LeBron James, to be at their best, both need the ball in their hands. It was rare you saw the game. Well, actually, you did not see a game in the playoffs where they both gave you their peak performance offensively. Doesn't work that way if you have two guys who need the ball in their hands.
No.
If I have a guy who needs the ball in their hands, I need a guy, a Klay Thompson type, who can move without the ball, catch and shoot, doesn't need to put it on the floor, isn't looking to ISO, and can still be effective, still make the defense guard him. Klay Thompson without the ball, defense was never going to leave him. Never. I'll let LeBron take some corner threes. If he's hot that night, cool, I'll go guard him. He's a streak shooter, though. So's Luka. So's Austin Reeves. And none of these guys, well, Luka and LeBron specifically, neither of them is at their best when you're asking them to move without the basketball. Put the ball in their hands and have other guys moving around them, great at it. But outside of LeBron catching a back screen so he can go to the rim for a lob, he's not a great guy at moving without the basketball. Definitely wouldn't call his strength catch and shoot. The strengths of LeBron's game were driving to the rim and creating for other people. You need the ball in your hands to do that.
What do you think of J.J. Redick as a coach?
Not enough data yet, but I think he knows basketball. I won't say he doesn't know basketball. But I will say this. I never had high expectations for J.J. Redick as a coach. Partially because I thought he and LeBron were too close. But the bigger part of it is based solely off watching him as an analyst when he was on ESPN. I thought he was a little too player friendly. Like when you listen to his analysis, a lot of it, there'd be excuses for players rather than just good basketball analysis, in my opinion. Yeah, and I get that as a player, a lot of those guys are your friends and contemporaries, and you want to give the benefit of the doubt. Can't do that when you're not a player. Can't do that when you're a coach.
I thought he kind of painted himself into a corner as far as that's concerned, because I saw a lot of that too. You know, a lot, because I felt like he did a lot to absolve players of accountability, and would squarely, and too many times he would put that accountability on the coach. Where now, hey, bro, you the coach.
You're the coach.
So, you know, you don't have to go far to hear him. You know, you were an analyst last season, absolving players of responsibility and putting it on the coach. Now you're the coach. So by your words, you know, this is your fault. This is your issue. Why are you not designing plays to get to have people, you know, move for LeBron? Why have you struggled to create that type of player, to create these types of scenarios? That's on you. You told me this was the coach's job. You're now the coach. You're now the coach, and you have two players who at more than one time in their career were considered, you know, top 5 in the sport. You know, LeBron is not the guy anymore. We know that. We understand that. He's still a beast. You know, he is still LeBron, but he is not the best guy in basketball anymore.
Right. He's 40 years old.
40 years old. He's still giving you.
He's playing at a decent level. Defensively, he's nowhere near what he was at his prime.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask him to carry you, he will run out of gas in the fourth quarter. He's 40 years old.
Yes.
He's not a bad player.
In a playoff game, he played the entire second half.
Right. So you knew he wasn't going to have any legs left for the next game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the coach.
Yep, that's on the coach. Bringing this back to the Sixers, because we talk about, you know, analytics and how it doesn't work and what it's doing for the rest of the league and where that leaves our team going into next season. I feel like they painted themselves into a corner where it's like, all right, unfortunately, how they can possibly get better.
Fire the GM, blow it up, get rid of everybody except maybe the head coach.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. And they've said, you know what, no, we're not going to do any of that. They've already said GM's coming back, coach is coming back next year.
Then we are where we are.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're waiting on the lottery to see if they have a top 6 pick.
I mean, let's think about this GM. Mm-hmm. This GM spent his big free agent money, put all his eggs into this offseason's basket, and then spent his big money on a 34-year-old who has played minimal games and probably been in decline for the last 4 years. You extended a 30-year-old Joel Embiid who you have in the building and you know about his knee issues. And you filled out your roster with a lot of 32-plus role players who aren't going to have the legs and energy to carry the load around an old Joel Embiid and an old Paul George. This is the GM. He needs to go. If this is how you think, like, these are things I saw. I'm not an NBA GM.
Mm-hmm.
Someone please go back and watch our shows from the beginning of the year in the offseason. This stuff was predictable. If the GMs whose job is to be able to predict this stuff can't see it coming because AI told them something different, him and his AI need to go. That's just where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. But yet, nonetheless, it looks like this GM's coming back. This GM's going to be in charge of the upcoming draft. And since they're financially tied to 2 aging, injury-prone players, since they have the roster that they have, of course, hopefully, you know, they can make some changes, get rid of some of these elder statesmen they have on.
And who are you going to, even if you get rid of the older role players at this point, who are you bringing in? You don't have any cap room. You're maxed out on Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
You're bringing in minimum exception type guy, like veteran
minimum
exceptions and minimum guys. Those are G leaguers and 35-year-olds. That's where you are.
No, you're right. And their only hope is to maybe try to develop.
They better hope they win the lottery this year.
You think Cooper Flag is going to be? You think Cooper Flag is going to be that much of a difference maker?
Cooper Flag's going to be a player.
Cooper Flag can turn the Sixers around.
In my opinion, Cooper Flag is going to be a player. You still got to blow up the rest of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
I still say move on from Embiid. Give Paul George to whoever will take him and take whatever they'll give you. What do you want to give me? I'll take it. And start over. That's where the Sixers are right now.
No, you were right. No, you are right. I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm not gonna argue with you because I can't. There's nothing to argue as far as that's concerned. You know,
if you actually win the lottery and can get a Cooper Flag, then I'd say keep Maxey. Otherwise, get rid of him too.
No, I've said that too. If you're gonna blow it up, blow it up.
Mm-hmm.
Blow it all up. Get rid of everybody.
Because Max is your
Everyone
most
must go.
valuable piece.
Yep.
He's the piece that can actually get you some value back and jumpstart your rebuild.
No, I agree. I agree. All right.
Anyway, I'm tired of being mad. How'd you feel about the Eagles draft? The NBA draft was a week ago. You had some time to soak it in, think about it. How'd you feel about what the Eagles did?
I was cool. I was good. Looked like they drafted defense at the top of their draft. Looks like they have usually, and you and I have done enough of these shows and have worked long enough where people know where we stand. We always talk about wanting your day one pick and hopefully your day two pick to be guys that you can plug in instantly. That can,
even if they're not immediate starters, they should be valuable contributors.
Yes, and that's where and
my first rounder, I want to be a starter if possible.
Yeah, but that's where we have graduated to the point where we're saying, yeah, we want immediate contributors. Once upon a time, I was like, nah, your day one pick need to start. But now they've gotten to a point where
your roster is pretty deep.
Yeah,
pretty stout. So
they get themselves an off-ball linebacker because at this point,
who can also play edge.
Who can also play edge, but you were able to lock down Zach Bond in free agency. He's here to stay.
And you get a young versatile linebacker to put out there with him.
Yep. And you do not have to rush Nakobe Dean back.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Now take your time.
Although Nakobe Dean, who is entering the fourth year of his contract, and as fourth round pick, third round, I believe, there's no fifth year option on his contract. Nakobe Dean may want to rush back for the sake of his next contract because he's going into a contract year. So
and honestly, that kind of frightens me because I feel like for Dean's sake and the sake of his pockets and his bank account and his livelihood, he's probably thinking he needs to rush back. But
and Dean played very well last year for the Eagles.
Yeah, he did. No, he did. He came along, and I feel like, and that's probably been one of the scariest things about the Eagles over the last 10 to 15 years.
And let's not forget, we have young Trot in development too.
Yep.
So Nakobe Dean's future beyond this season, we'll see.
We'll see. We will see. And I feel like, one thing that we have learned over the last 10 to 15 years with this group of people, we have seen what the importance of patience has been. Brandon Graham just retires. He's probably one of the biggest examples of somebody who flourished under having patience with him, because at one point in time, we was ready to run him out of town too. He'll tell you that himself. So, so I was happy to see the Eagles pick up that 5th year on Jordan Davis.
I was as well.
I was happy to see that, because there were some question marks about him, but I thought I saw signs.
I expect to see. I don't know why I don't have anything like solid to put this on. Just my gut says I see a significant improvement from Jordan Davis this year.
I could see it too. I could see, I could see it too. And I want to see where this defense, I like their picks. I was happy with the draft. I was happy with the Eagles draft. Wasn't stressing it. This was a good way to go into haven't felt like this in a long time. Haven't gone into a draft like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What's happening? I'm like, okay, let's just see what they pick.
2-3 years ago, we were questioning whether or not Howie should lose his job. Now we are at a point where we're just like, yeah, we trust Howie.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Post Jalen Reagor experiment, people were ready for Howie to But I think the Jalen Reagor experiment made Howie realize, yeah, these kids go to the bigger schools for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And unless it's something special, aka Quinyon Mitchell, we're going to stick with the bigger school, bigger conference kids.
No,
because we have tape on them against the best competition.
Amen. Yes.
You know, a lot of Alabama guys, a lot of Georgia guys, a couple Penn State guys,
Mm-hmm.
you know, some Big Ten guys, a couple Nebraska guys. But
they didn't get the
guys
Penn,
you see.
They didn't get the Penn State guy I wanted, though. And here we are, right back in a position where we were in a couple of years ago,
where you gotta hate another Penn State guy.
Where I gotta hate a Penn State guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like this because I already am in a position where I hate a Penn State guy. I hate a Penn State guy who's down there in Dallas on the edge. Probably
and
one
now
of the
you got another one playing the same position in New York.
Same possession in yes. And I'm sitting here trying to be patient, waiting for those guys to hit free agency so they can come to the Eagles and lead us to another Super Bowl.
Now, what's interesting, though, is the guy the Eagles drafted, Jahad Campbell, a lot of people have compared to those two guys with the versatility and athleticism, range sideline to sideline, ability to play coverage and get after the passer.
Yep.
And many people had Jahad Campbell as a top 10 prospect. As if it were not for injury concerns, he had a shoulder surgery, I believe it was in March or so.
Yep.
But for a labrum, which is, it's a deal. It's not like something that'll end you, but you got to take your time and recover from the labrum. But if he can be that caliber player, anything close to what those two guys are supposed to be, Micah Parsons, what we've seen already as a pro, or what we expect Abdul Carter to be as a pro.
Yep.
If he's in that class as some of the scouts, quote unquote experts are saying, the Eagles got a steal.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think once again that's the conversation that we're having, because I feel like we have been saying this about Howie Roseman and the Eagles year after year after year. And I look at Campbell, I look at Makuba in the second round, the safety that they got. Talking, being that hard hitter that Gardner Johnson used to be. That this could be the guy. Let's see. First 5 picks, 5 picks, defense. Did that shock you?
Not really, because if you look at what's going on offense, I thought maybe they might have looked at tight end in the earlier rounds. But other than that, on offense, you still have Jahan Dotson here, so you don't really didn't need a receiver early. You still have 4 of your starters on O-line from last year. You had Tyler Steen, who you drafted in the second round a couple years ago. And you have Trevor Keegan, who you traded for in the Gardner Johnson trade. So one of them should be Keegan was also a former first round pick. Stoutland should be able to get one of the two of them that be able to deal with the right guard responsibilities. You re-up Saquon. So yeah, outside of the Dallas Goedert position, and he's still on the roster, your offense is set. Your defense, you lost a lot of players in the offseason, so I was not surprised at all that Howie went defense. You actually even extended Lane Johnson recently, so you didn't have to get his replacement this year. You bought yourself another year or two to look for his replacement and get the right guy that fits without having to reach or overpay. The Eagles, they're ahead of the game right now.
Well, it made for an enjoyable watch of the NFL draft. I enjoyed it. Now I will say this. Had to take one for the team in my first 2 rounds of NFL watching. I had to watch the draft. I had to watch the draft with my wife and my daughters. So they like to watch the ABC broadcast.
Okay.
Now, have you watched it since they've gone with the dual broadcast?
The ABC versus the ESPN.
ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Because the ESPN broadcast, and the NFL Network broadcast. Those are for football people.
Right. You got all the analysts,
Yes, the analysts. Yes. The
The
football.
ABC broadcast is giving you like human interest stories
Yes,
and family and
yes. So I know all about all the players who grew up in the 7 kids in a studio apartment somewhere, having to dodge bullets and
ask
fight
somebody
gang
what their
members.
40 time was.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's
how many reps he do at the bench press reps he did at the
I
combine.
don't know. I don't know.
What
but
was
I
his
know.
vert?
No, I don't know that. I don't know what he did at the combine. Know what I know? I know that he had to raise his brother from, he had to go through 3 gang zones to get to school, and he had 1 pair of pants that he shared with 6 brothers, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know all their stories.
All while mom was working 8 jobs full time.
Yes.
He was working all of them full time. 8 jobs.
So, but nonetheless, it made it. The Eagles are in a position where it made for good. It made for an enjoyable draft watch. So I could pay attention to other stories, like your guy Shador Sanders.
Oh man, let's get into this.
Yeah. I wanted to know.
Before we get out of here,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably do a quick show tonight.
But
before I have one question for you, JB.
Okay.
Simple question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you thought Shador would have got drafted or what you expected.
Mm-hmm.
My question is very simple. What is it about Shador's play on the field? No, let me rephrase. What is it about Shador Sanders as a football player makes you think he should have been a first-round pick?
I thought, well, I'll put it to you like this. I thought whether or not he was a first-round pick, I thought he was better than a 5th-round pick.
All right, so here's the thing. The guys that go early in the draft at quarterback have something special about them usually that you can't teach. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the best football players, but they're good runners, cannon arm, something like that. They got those physical special skills, right? Guys that don't have that, they just happen to be accurate. They can go anywhere in the draft. Depends on who likes their skill set, who thinks they're a fit. You know who's accurate, can move a little bit, but not the most mobile, and doesn't have the strongest arm? What quarterback in the NFL does that sound like? Sounds like Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Brock Purdy was the last player picked in the draft.
I thought you were going to say Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts is very mobile.
No, okay,
Jalen Hurts has a special physical skill.
No, I thought you were going to use that to throw some shade, but no, I hear what you're saying. Make your point.
So, guys with the physical tool set of Shador Sanders can be anywhere from 2nd to 7th round picks. Matt Barkley was extremely accurate in college, but he didn't have a cannon arm and wasn't mobile. He ended up being a 4th round pick and be out the league in a few years. Shador Sanders has average arm strength. He might be able to run, but we've never seen it. He's accurate, takes a lot of sacks, and on top of that, he comes with distractions. Any coach who doesn't have success immediately if they drafted Shador early is looking over their shoulder like his dad might take my job. Like that, not the dad's gonna tell me what to do. His dad might take my job. Would you want to deal with that?
No.
From a prospect who doesn't have the special physical tools?
Well, I will put it. I will.
And is cocky. Let's be honest about it. The kid's cocky and doesn't have the special physical tools.
I think
I'm cool with confidence. You know me, but you got to have the tools to match it.
Well, I will say this. Like I said, I thought he was better than a fifth round pick. And even given your description of him, I feel like he was the best quarterback in this year's draft pack, not named Cam Ward. When you talk about
best college quarterback, yeah.
Oh, that's what I meant. And the best college quarterback, the best quarterback in this year's draft.
That means nothing when it comes to the NFL, though.
No, I understand.
Ryan Leaf was a great college quarterback.
No, I understand.
Matt Barkley was a great college quarterback.
But that still means that there were 4 quarterbacks taken ahead of him. I think that he's better than those 4 quarterbacks. I will say this: Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, and Jackson Dart all have better physical attributes than Shedeur Sanders. Really? You think Jackson Dart is better than Shedeur Sanders?
He has better physical attributes
than
Shedeur Sanders.
Okay.
Now you get a coach like Brian Daboll who coached up Josh Allen, who was extremely raw, but had those physical attributes.
Mm-hmm.
And you show him a guy like Jackson Dart, who's big, strong, has those physical attributes. He's going to think he can coach him up. Whereas if you look at a prospect like Shedeur, who's already accurate, but has limited physical attributes, you're thinking he's closer to his ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing about evaluating prospects moving to the next level. It's not just how good are you right now, it's how good can I get you to be. And guys with better physical attributes, these coaches are thinking, if I do my job as good as because coaches have egos too.
Mm-hmm.
So the coach is thinking, if I coach as well as I think I can coach, give me the good guy with the great physical tools and I'll get him right.
No, I understand that. And to that point, because I know we're up against the time. So let me make this real quick point, because I agree that coaches and front offices, they do have egos. They do have pride. And I think, honestly, it speaks to what we talk about when it comes to the NFL all the time. I think there's parity in the league. And I think the parity of the league extends in both directions, both the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas there might be front offices who take a look and take a stance, and then there might be other front offices who think they might think they're taking a similar stance and overthink the situation to their detriment.
Absolutely.
And I say that to say I do not think NFL teams colluded against Shedeur Sanders.
I don't with you completely.
I do not think NFL teams colluded against. I don't think they got together and said, "Hey, we're going to teach this guy a lesson.
Put this guy in his place. This kid is too crazy."
I don't think that happened.
I do think there are some teams he may have rubbed the wrong way in interviews.
Yes, I think there are some teams that he may have rubbed the wrong way in interviews. I think specifically one team that actually put their name to some of their criticism was the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, we saw in real time last summer how inept that Giants front office is.
Mm-hmm.
So although
now Cleveland, they could have got him at 2, traded out, took another quarterback in the 3rd round.
Now have 5,
and then finally came back to him in the 5th round.
Now they have 5.
Oh, they're another in that front office.
Yes. Yeah,
I was just pointing out to say that.
Yeah. And what do I
had multiple opportunities to get him, and then just took him because he happened to be there late.
Yes.
They clearly couldn't have thought that highly of him as a prospect.
And what have the Browns consistently done since you and I have been working together? What have they consistently done? They've ground. The Browns are going to ground.
But the teams that win didn't take them either.
No. But I understand that. But and here's the thing, and I will say this. But yes, the teams that win didn't take him because the teams that win didn't need him.
Pittsburgh needs a quarterback.
What's Pittsburgh won?
Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season.
Never had a losing season, but what is he
And the one thing he's missing
is a quarterback.
He hasn't had a
real
decent quarterback
since Big Ben. Yes, since Big
And
Ben.
he had every opportunity to take one if he thought Shador was one.
Yes,
and he passed.
And now we're going to see where that decision gets him, because honestly, what at this point in time, there's nothing you can do but see now because yes, Shador Sanders is a 5th round pick. 5th round pick has to make the team.
Yeah. You're not a guaranteed.
You're not a guarantee. A 5th round pick has to make the team.
I probably did expect him to go third round or so, second, third round, a guy who somebody had drafted being a backup and develop. I didn't see 5th round, but I also understand Brock Purdy was the last pick of the 7th round. Guys that are accurate but lack special physical tools fall in the draft all the time.
I will say, well, first of all, let me just ask you, how much time do we got left?
Couple minutes, not much.
Okay. I will say,
people
talk about the Deion influence, and I understand, him being a coach, and the lure of the NFL will always be there for as long as he's coaching. But I think one thing Deion Sanders brings to the table as far as Shador, as far as being a father, he is a man who has decades of experience within the business of football.
Absolutely.
One thing Deion Sanders knows is the business of football. So the one thing that he's been able to teach Shador and show Shador to pretty much his entire life. Hey, this is what these teams are going to do. This is what these teams are going to come at you with. This is what these teams are going to bring to the table. And you know what? It looks as if Shador overplayed his hand.
So let me ask you a question. Based on what you just said, and then we can get out of here. But real quick, how much do you think the hype around Shador that he could ever even have been the number 2 pick, how much of that was simply because his father understood the business of football, was able to create a media hype around him, rather than him being that great of a prospect? Coming out of high school, he was a 4-star. He was not a 5-star. Good, not great. You don't go straight to the big time school. You go to, as a 4-star. Because here you
I'm sorry. You're right.
You go to FCS football. You win there, but you also got Travis Hunter with you, who's the best player in the country.
Yes.
And then you go to not the Big Ten or the SEC. You go to the Big 12 that's falling apart and all the best teams have left. And you don't win the conference. You finish 3rd or 4th with a late season collapse. How great of a player are you? And how much of it is media hype? If Shador's last name was Sanders, we may have never looked at him as though he should be a number 2 pick.
That might, that might be true. As far as not, but I guess I never felt, I didn't feel as strongly as others that Shador Sanders was being forced down our throats. I'm
not saying like Colorado was forced down our throats.
No, you know what? You are right. I will say
with that,
as far as yes, I think Colorado, because like when I think of Colorado. Even more than I think even Travis Hunter, like at this now, the last 2 years, I think Deion.
Right.
Like, but
I'm asking how much of that Deion being Deion created a buzz around his son to try to increase his draft stock, rather than us thinking they colluded to take him down. Maybe he's just not that great. That is a possibility.
That I think in the case of Shador Sanders, I think there's a little bit of both.
I do too.
I think whereas I think maybe he is not as great as people thought he was, but I think hindsight being 2020, there's a lot of people now trying to come back and say, "Oh, I told you so," and this guy really sucks.
No, and I don't want to go that far either. But I said
okay, maybe
second or third round talent.
I
And
think
you come in acting like you're the number one talent. That's going to rub some teams the wrong way and possibly drop you down.
Possibly. And I think, but I think how much, when I think now of the state of sports and this fight against player empowerment, where now you got players making NIL deals. You got, once upon a time, you're a team front office. You're talking to a potential draft pick. You're about to make this man a rich man, and they're going to fall, to an extent, they're going to fall in line.
Shador's father was Dion, and then he got the most NIL money.
Yeah, exactly.
This kid ain't poor.
Yeah, exactly. So, this kid is coming in with some expectations and a little bit of a better understanding of the situation.
So,
but nonetheless,
if you're an NFL GM and you got a kid who's coming in with average, slightly above average, not great physical talent, you want him to be hungry or you want him to be cocky?
Well, you want him to be hungry, but and at this point, yes, but now at this point, I am not sure how much I trust some of these organizations to judge his hunger.
Trust some of these organizations; they do dumb stuff all the time. Yeah. We know that.
Yeah. So
I just don't.
All I'm saying is, all I'm saying is, I'm not going to fall into the line that this guy is cocky because because the Giants said he was cocky.
Oh, I'm not saying that either. But what I am saying is, I don't think it was some massive conspiracy to humble Shador. I think there were a lot of factors. And some of it is his talent, especially when we're talking about physical ability. His physical talent is not the greatest.
No, we're on the same page at this point in time. At no point, well, I will say this: at no point in the first 2 days of the draft was I ever like, "Oh, the Eagles should get him." The Eagles are not in the same position they were in when they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. So when they were like, "Oh, he fell, maybe the Eagles should pick him up." Nah, I'm good. Now, once we got to the 5th round, even had the Eagles got it maybe in the 4th, I might not have minded, but I was, as far as I was concerned, it was like, look, man, especially day 1 and day 2, no, thank you. I like him, love to see what he does with somebody else's team, but I'm good. No, thank you.
Exactly.
All right, hey man, dude, it was good to dust this microphone off and talk some sports with you, man. We should do this again sometime.
We should. It was fun.
This was fun. I'm not quite sure if you've done this before, but you seem to be pretty good at this, Mike Jones.
You seem pretty comfortable behind the mic yourself.
I appreciate this, man. You know what? If you're not busy, we should do a podcast called Jonesy and Brown.
Sounds like a good idea. I'm with it.
All right. Well, this is what we'll do. If you like the chemistry and the work that I have with Mike Jones, you tell us what you think, and you hit us on social media at Jonesy and Brown, or
X on Instagram,
X, or Twitter.
On X. See, I beat you to that, right?
Yeah. Facebook, Instagram, X. Jonesy and Brown, or at BITW Sports. Go to our website, bitwsports.com. Let us know what you think. Hit us up. Ladies and gentlemen, that man over there is Mike Jones.
That man over there is John Brown.
Thank you for joining us for the show. We will see you next time, y'all. Peace, y'all.
Peace.